Wonderful, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, I have lost my big view here. Just give me one more second. I'm going to give, you're seeing some things in the room here. All right. Either way, we're going to get back into it, folks. Uh, Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Influence Like a Ninja, the latest in our free series, our Ninja Skills Booster series. A lunch and learn for many of us. Some of it's us. If you're in the UK like Toby, maybe it's late afternoon already. But thank you for being here. This has been one that has been, receiving a lot of buzz, and I'm glad you're here for it. Influence Like a Ninja. So again, we're going to take the next half hour or so and give you some tips and some tactics and some skills and some to-dos around around that. Here I am. Some of you know me. We've met before. My name is Nick Aiello. I am a productivity ninja. At least that's what it says on my business cards. Oops. And I represent Think Productive, a global training company, offices in the UK, and Canada, and the US, and Australia. We're on a work mission where everybody loves Mondays. This is going to be an interactive session. We're going to be using the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on a couple items today. So if you can find the chat, we're going to be using that today. And again, our look today is more of a sneak peek. It's a preview from our full course on influencing, persuading. There's been a lot of interest in this topic as of late, and we have quite a lot to say on it. So if you're interested, please reach out. We'd be happy to give you more information about the full course. I believe it's 3 hours, maybe even 4, and we're going to be giving you again just a sneak peek on what we offer on that course. So on the big course, on the full course, we talk about all of these kind of things: culture, personal brand, strategy, skills, psychology, the kind of the why behind influence and persuasion, and style. Today, we don't have time to hit all of those. Of course, we're going to be looking at style, how you do it. We're going to be looking at personal brand, and we're going to give you some skill set as well. Cool. So let's kick it off. We're going to start by talking about personal brand. So in this first section, we'll be asking you to consider, what are some traits that are considered influential traits? Reflect on how you present yourself and what we're calling aura. And we're going to talk a little bit about nonverbal communication. I speak 2 languages fluently. One is English, one is body language. So we'll be talking about that a little bit today. First, a little bit of a reflection. Be the type of person you want to meet. So I'll let you think about it. Who are some people you admire? This could be a famous person, a celebrity, a historical figure, your next door neighbor, a family member. Let me know in the chat, just some names that come to mind or relations. Who are some folks that you admire? Awesome. I love that. That's our first response, Gail, my mother, my husband. And thank you for toggling your chat settings to everyone. So it's not just to me, so that everyone can see it. Your mother, your husband admires. I love that. I love that. Anyone else, folks? What are some folks you admire? Who are they? Let's get to know you a little bit. And feel free to use the chat. As you're doing some of that reflecting, what are some attributes? What are some traits? What are some characteristics about that person? Why do you admire them? Let's put a few of those words into the chat too. Tenacity, what a great word that is. Yeah, tenacious. Thanks, Toby, for playing along, and Gail. Any others? What are some words about that person? Why do you admire them? Nice, Stephen, creative, cool, very cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, these words come to mind, right? When we're thinking of the people we admire, people we want to be more like, we can start to steal, borrow, replicate, write some of their traits and start to use them as our own qualities. Honesty, loyalty, curiosity. You don't hear that one a lot. Positivity. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for playing along. Uh, Now is self-reflection. If you're taking some notes, think of 3 words you would like others to say about you. You don't have to share this. You can if you wish. But this is more a personal reflection. We'll give you 30 seconds. Maybe there's a code of values you live your life by, or how would you like people to describe you? What would you like others to say about you? I'll give you 30 seconds to think about it. A couple more folks are joining. Hello, welcome. We're just talking about creating a personal brand and how that affects influence. What would you like others to say about you? Oh, look at that. Gail, thank you. Friendly, helpful, courageous. That's a great list, right? Some of you are thinking of, 5 or 6. Try to hone it down, right? One of our kind of ninja qualities is really dial it in and be focused. And we can start to live into these images and aspire to them. How does this affect our work and our choices? Cool. Thanks for playing along again, team. Uh, Things that matter about our personal brand, whether we like it or not. First impressions count. Uh, this is Elena. She's our managing director in the UK. She's choosing to present herself like this for effect. But what comes to mind? Maybe when we see Elena for the first time, any thoughts, any impressions come to mind? This is her being casual, but sometimes, right? Bored, right? Let's be honest. She's here to play along. She knows what the responses we're going to get. This person looks lazy, very comfortable or chill, in her sweats. But first impressions matter. This is where we're going with this, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual. And we're making these first impressions rapidly. In some, circles, some research shows 7 seconds we're making a first impression. Well, we kind of adhere to the notion of 4x4. Within 4 seconds, people are starting to make first impressions. We're starting to size people up. We're starting to classify them as in-group or out-group within 4 seconds. And then at about the 4-minute mark, we call that second checking. Are my first initial instincts, reactions accurate? Am I learning anything new that's now changing my mind, or am I locked into this kind of perception? And after about 4 minutes, it's hard to turn things around. So even in the virtual space, first impressions matter. Again, I was speaking with a client I hadn't worked with before, and we had we had a Zoom meeting. And as soon as their camera was on, big smile, and I'm like, this is really going to affect the rest of our conversation. I instantly liked that person because they came in with a positive kind of appearance. There was chemistry, there was likability right away. So first impressions really matter. Also, again, in person or digitally, tone of voice. I don't know if anyone's ever worked in telemarketing, but the first thing they teach you is you can hear a smile over the phone, and it's true, right? Our tone of voice means a lot, especially around first impressions. And this is something that we can play around with. How are we presenting ourselves? We're seeing a potential list here: slow, angry, warm, timid, sharp. And this is kind of a spectrum, right? This is kind of a color range too, or kind of a chill vibe, or easy tones, or like what we call a yellow tone. And sometimes there's a need for different inflections. I'm going to give you an example here. We have a great passage from a great book, To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm going to try it a couple of different ways. You can let me know in the chat how you think I'm coming across just with my tone of voice. All right, let's give it a go. Atticus said to Jem one day, "I'd rather you shot at tin cans in the backyard. But I know you'll go after birds. Shoot all the blue jays you want, if you can hit them. But remember, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird." How was I trying to present? In the chat, let me know what kind of tones. You can use the descriptors up top. You can come up with your own. How was I presenting that one? Warm, understand, fatherly. I take that as such a compliment. Yeah, thoughtful. Yeah, that was the intention there. A little slower, a little bit more deliberate. Yeah, thoughtful, resigned, acceptance. Look at this vocabulary coming in. Nice. Let's try it again. Atticus said to Jem one day, I'd rather you shot tin cans in the backyard, but I know you'll go after birds. Shoot all the blue jays you want if you can hit them. But remember, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. Right. What about that one? Skeptical. Nice. Okay. These are things we can play around. Authoritative. Nice. Right. Stern, commanding. There's actually time and place for mixing it up, right? Variety. If we were going through a full session, there's a time where I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate. There's time where I need to be a little bit more sharp. If I'm sending you to a breakout room, I need to have my kind of instruction voice or drill sergeant voice so you know what I'm asking of you. It has to be clear, but it has to be more of that kind of command voice. So you folks know where I'm going with this. So again, this all plays a part in influence, in persuasion. Who are we trying to connect with? Who are we trying to convince? So first impressions matter. Tone of voice, big factor as well. I want to talk about a couple skills. We always talk about skills on these ninja sessions, and I want to talk about a couple that we can play around with in real time. We're going to talk about the idea of listening and questions. Questions are extremely powerful because they make us think. They are provocative. They hold the power to get information out of us, right? And there's different types of questions we can be asking. Open-ended questions, rhetorical questions, hypotheticals, where we're putting something out there but not really expecting a response. Challenging questions. Why did you say that? And again, a lot of questions very much related to listening. Before we even advance the slide, let me know in the chat. In your opinion, is there a difference between listening and hearing? I'm of the belief there is a big, big difference between listening and hearing. To me, hearing is kind of in one ear, out the other. Hearing is, oh no, I know you're speaking, but I have no idea what you're saying. I know your mouth's moving, but I don't know what you're saying. Listening is understanding. Listening is comprehension. And sometimes what gets in the way is we are often listening to respond rather than listening to understand. And we do this, right? I do this. I'm still guilty of it. But sometimes, has anyone ever answered a question that has not been asked? Hey, what's new? Pretty good, right? We do this. We're so ready with our own part that we're, making assumptions. We're skipping steps. We're not listening to the end. We're listening to respond rather than listening to understand. So active listening, especially when we're talking about questions. Questions are a great way to find out information if we're actually listening. We want to be starting with open-ended questions. Questions that elicit more than that yes or no response. And sometimes even if they're open-ended, they could be weak questions. If we have any parents on the call, you know what I'm talking about. Weak questions are those ones that could be one-word answers. How was school today? Fine. What did you learn? Stuff. So even though they're open, they're more than a yes or no question. They're weak in that they can elicit a one-word response. So start with non-confrontational questions. Ideally, what or how questions. Avoid asking why. I don't know all the science behind it, but it's true. When we ask why questions, they land as confrontational and the recipient gets defensive. I do. People are asking you why questions. There's sometimes an inherent judgment that's baked in, and immediately we're on the defense. So when we're starting with questions, they're open questions, what or how questions. And again, stronger, powerful open-ended questions more than those one-word questions. Then probing questions, next stage in the funnel. It depends on what is said, so you have to listen. I know if there's any coaches on the call, the Coaching Federation, when engaging in coaching, says you should be listening 70% of that conversation, asking questions 25% of the conversation, and then your own advice or suggestions about 5% of the conversation. So, in order to follow up and ask a thoughtful, a probing question, you have to listen to what's being said. And then finally, closed questions. So, sometimes it is valid to ask a closed question because we want confirmation. Sometimes we want that yes or no response. Can I count on you? We want that confirmation. We want that, were you present to hear this? Sometimes we need those yes or no. Again, in the coaching world, uh, they usually stick to about a 5-to-1 ratio of open-ended versus closed-ended questions. Uh, Another type of listening is empathetic listening, right? And this is talking about sometimes what's beneath the surface. There's the iceberg model of, when we see a glacier, an iceberg in nature, we only see about 20-25% of it, and the rest of it is actually under the water. So sometimes it's about what's underneath the water. Sometimes the first thing that's going on isn't the real topic. And we don't want to go too deep here early on. But again, body language, tone of voice. We can show someone that we're actually listening. We can lean in, right? That eye contact, that paying attention, asking some follow-up questions. Really, very much linked to understanding. That's the sweet spot, when we're trying to demonstrate listening. Uh, so we talked about personal brand, we talked about skills. Now a little bit of style comes into play as well here, right? How is your influencing style? We all have a natural one we tend to rely on, but sometimes it might not be the best style to use. So we often call these push and pull, right? Push is going to be a little bit more forceful, a little bit more procedural, a little bit more assertive. We saw that in the tone of voice activity. That would be more, again, the authoritative commanding voice was more of a push. And then there's a pull tactic as well, negotiating, charismatic, collaborative, problem solving. And again, I'm going to pick and choose these. As a facilitator, I'm often trying to pull. The answers are within that kind of Yoda mentality, getting the group to answer their own questions. But there is times if I'm giving instructions again or setting up a breakout group that I need to have a bit of a more push style. Just thinking back, we had a moment to reflect on people you admire early on. Some of you came up with family members and historical figures. Back into the chat, thinking about that person, what would you say their default style is? What is their, natural tendency? Are they more of a push? Are they more of a pull? Love to hear about that. Let me know in the chat. Where do you think they are as an influencing style? And again, there's a need for both, I think, right? We're going to be probably naturally strong at one and maybe have to work at the other, but I think there is a need for both. And I think there's sometimes, we're wearing multiple hats, and knowing when to choose that one is an important one. Both. Both my mother and husband are push, your colleagues are pull. Again, maybe it shows up different in family life versus work life. And that's a tactic as well, knowing when to pull this out. Right on. Thank you all for playing along. Very great. Cool. So again, we go really deep on this in the full session. We've touched briefly on style, on personal brand, and on skills. We go really deep on all three of those in the larger session. And a big chunk of it is the psychology part, the strategy part, and the culture part. How do we influence, the team, the collective, if you will. If you've been on these skill booster sessions before, we always try to end with something you can do, right? Something that's tangible, an action, a verb word. So we're going to give you a minute. What will you do now? Not, this moment, but just hearing this initial thoughts, some of these concepts around influence, around persuasion. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. What's something you're going to do? Is it play around with tone of voice? Is it, really define those three words for you, those three words you want others to speak your name of? Active listening. Nice. Thanks, Anne Marie. Be in the present and more aware of how I listen. Wow. The intentionality behind that, Donna. Thank you. Right. Just a personal story as you're reflecting. I used to be so bad at names, introductions. Someone would, I would meet someone and I would forget their name instantly. And I realized I wasn't listening. I was so worried with my part, right? I'm Nick, nice to meet you, that I wouldn't hear their name. I wouldn't listen to their name and it would be lost within seconds. I'm much better at this now. Try to use more pull methods. Okay, Gail, very cool. Awesome. Very cool reflection. Again, even in this short 20 minutes, folks, we're coming out of here with tangible, actionable things, which I think is so, so impressive. Very cool. Next up, wow, I am so excited about this. We had one of these already this year, and by popular demand, Microsoft Tools for Ninjas. This is a sneak peek into another full course. The full course is awesome. We're incredibly proud of it because it talks to all the Microsoft suite of tools, Office, Teams, Outlook, Word, Excel. We're going to give you some quick hitters, some snippets on next month's session. Back with me, 25th of June. Again, nice little lunch and learn. But this one is becoming very, very popular, Microsoft Tools for Ninjas. So I wanted to give a quick plug for that. If you never want to miss an upcoming one, let us know. Again, if you can scan the QR code, you'll never miss one of these skill booster sections. And again, your feedback is always critically important to us. Let us know how we're doing today. There's a little QR code you can scan for today's session around influence. I'll put it into the chat as well about how to reach out. I love what I do. If I could be doing it any better, I want to. So please let us know what you thought of today's session around influence. NSB evaluation. And stay connected. We'd love to hear from you folks. Again, reach out on socials, on LinkedIn. Those are my stuff there. We do have a couple minutes left, though. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to take a crack at them. Just let me know in the chat if you have any questions. If not, all the best to you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us today. But I'll stick around for 5 minutes if there's any questions. It's always great to see some familiar faces. Thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. Yes, recording will be available afterwards. Again, we'll make it available. Since you've signed up, we have your email address. We'll send it out. Once it gets loaded to YouTube, we'll just send you the link. You're welcome. Thank you. All the best. Have a great day, folks. Always great to see some folks. Thanks again. Just a reminder for those sticking around, here's our next one, 25th of June. Yeah, you're welcome. All the best, folks. Take care.